Hi there, and welcome to this edition of Clicks and Giggles, and we're going to be talking about AI web tools and how to use them for lead generation. And as always, I am partnered by Steve here, who's going to lead the way in terms of sort of guiding us in the world of AI web tools. How are you doing, Steve?
Very good, thanks, Daniel. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And I know it was your birthday yesterday, but I already gave you a happy birthday rendition, so I'm not going to do it again.
Start to finish, I was very impressive. Thank you very much for that. I was touched.
Yeah, well, not many people get that, so you're a lucky man. So yes, AI web tools and how to use them for lead generation. Why are we talking about it now? Obviously, AI is a big thing, but it's particularly web tools. Why are we talking about AI web tools? I presume they're just easier to create now. Is that right, Steve?
That's part of the reason. Yeah, AI web tools have become obviously increasingly easy to create. But actually, the interesting thing about AI web tools, I'm sure if anyone reads the transcript, we've heavily optimized for SEO now with the term AI web tools. But the thing about these tools is they're actually the cure for a problem that AI is creating. One of those problems is that obviously people now, the tendency is people are using AI search more and more. There's voice search, of course, like, with Alexa or Hey Google. And then Google are also using this information panel that you get on the search engine results page for really good content. So you very often get people searching something informational, and they get presented with your content on the Google search engine results page, or in ChatGPT, or in Gemini, or by Alexa, and they get all the intellectual property, or they get your hard work is being poured into getting Google to surface your content and not resulting in a click through to your website. And that is one of the unfortunate consequences of AI for sort of webmasters. And AI web tools are a way of giving people a reason to click. So you can have ChatGPT say, for example, one of those that we're going to talk about later is a interior design quote builder, I suppose we might call it. We would have a landing page for that, and it would give some indicative pricing, let's say, for for types of different interior design projects. And it would say, for more accurate, and at the bottom of the information panel, or Alexa or whatever tool was giving the answer to a client that was making a general informational search about something related to that industry or that type of field, it would say, for more information or for an accurate quote or range pricing, have a look at in this case, Copper and Ash website to use their tool. So it's a way of getting people who would otherwise just get their information off the search engine results page to go through and click on your website, which is, we talked about zero click in a previous episode. So AI web tools are a cure for AI search, I suppose.
Okay, so they're quick as a mate, and as you say, it's a reason why people will click through to your website, not just to get a kind of a guide price from various different websites. AI might say, well, typically it's going to cost this, that, the other, but the information's got to come from somewhere. It will give a source of that information, and within that AI overview, hopefully there's some content in there for get a more accurate by filling out this calculator here, and AI might actually suggest you could actually just use these calculators for a better result. So okay, and what would you've given a kind of example of what a lead generation web tool is. Have you got any other kind of ideas, of just general ideas of what counts as a lead generation tool? I presume you've got to capture the data, don't you?
You've got to capture the data. I suppose there's two things, two primary takeaways that both the prospector and the prospect get in this case. Firstly, as the person that's prospecting, so as the company that's offering the service that's getting people to use your tool, you're usually getting at the very least a name and an email address to potentially follow up, but also in filling out a form that results in some output. the customer would also be sharing information about their project or information about what they're looking for. So you've kind of got good sales intelligence prior to getting back in contact with them. It's not a cold lead. It's not just an email address and a name, and you don't really know anything about their intent. You started to build up a picture of the prospect. So that's really good for people who are prospecting for new customers, who are looking for leads. You're getting warmer, and you're getting warmer leads, and they can be more qualified if you get your lead gen form right. So that's one important aspect from the point of view of the service provider. Another thing would be if you're able to provide a nice takeaway, like for example a downloadable PDF or an email summary of the quote, perhaps done with an AI generated narrative. That is something that can sit in people's inbox or could be printed out by them, and that could be a piece of branded a branded asset or a branded takeaway from your business. So it helps keep you kind of front and center in that person's mind as an expert in the field. They're able to refer back to it. So it's something they can hold on to that sits in their inbox rather than just requiring them to remember to go back to their website.
Okay, so in most cases, although the first example we're going to give isn't actually true, so I'm contradicting myself. Most cases, you're capturing data, not just about contact data, but data about that business, the project, or whatever it is they want to do. So that means any lead that comes through is going to be more qualified. So that's going to be beneficial. So even if we take out sort of AI overviews and all the rest of it, if you were doing Google ads, if you're doing Facebook ads, and you're doing lead generation through those, so that you're driving people through to a landing page with one of these tools, hopefully you're going to get maybe an increased conversion rate purely because you're offering something of value rather than just passive content. You're increasing people's time on their site, because obviously it takes a little bit of time to fill these things out. The greater amount of time that people spend or invest in your site, the more chance they're going to sort of complete it, because obviously they don't want to give up on wasted time. It also shows that you're innovative. Like all the websites all the other websites they go to don't have this. So you think, well, this company's ahead of the game. They're obviously thinking ahead of the game. So that's a good impression on their brand. Also, when it comes to pricing and that kind of thing, it also gives a bit more sort of transparency, so people trust you. So it should increase the conversion rate of all your paid campaigns, I would have thought, as well. But I did say I contradicted myself by capturing data. You don't always have to capture data. And if you do want to show the first example that we did for ourselves, the World Cup sweepstake, we didn't actually capture data for email marketing purposes. If we wanted to retarget through Facebook advertising, that kind of thing. So anybody that goes onto this website and signs up, for example, we could then target them with adverts. So you don't always have to capture data, but just to explain it to people, what is actually a web tool? Do you want to show the World Cup sweepstake that we did for a bit of fun for Strategy Plus?
Absolutely, yeah. So the concept for this was to build an it was to prove a concept, really. It was a prototype for our business, to see if we could build something that we could use internally. That how we could use AI to do some of the heavy lifting around client communication, but we wanted to test it on ourselves first, and then make it available to a select few of our clients as well to run their own office sweepstakes. So this was built in a day, designed, built, everything was hooked up in a day. But obviously there was a bit more planning that went into it. So this just gives people the ability to run an office sweepstake. Now we could have actually turned this into a tool that actually billed people as well, that people could pay through the app. But obviously with it being a sweepstake, there are issues around things such as gambling licenses and such like. So we thought we'd just leave it for people to go manually collect money in their offices and run it that way. So you can just go onto this website. We had to change this kind of slightly infantile logo that doesn't match the current branding of the World Cup, because we were concerned about intellectual property. So
they might come after us.
You think they might come after us? Yeah, because FIFA have we think we might be on their radar. So yeah, we changed it to this. So it doesn't obviously match the World Cup logo branding, but that's fine. When we go on to when someone first arrives on the page, then they'll be, given this greeting, and they can either run a sweepstake, so they can be the guy in the office that is the admin of the sweepstake, let's say, for want of a better word, or they can join with a code. So the admin can create it and send out a code by email, and they can join the sweepstake with a code. The beauty of what this has multiple pages on it, but the beauty of it is it kind of keeps track of what people's teams are doing and updates them on how people in their businesses are doing in terms of the sweepstakes. So I'm just going to have a look at the org admin page. This would be the person inside the organization, so the person running the sweepstake. So this is kind of a fake one here. So it's Acme Limited, and they set the entry cost per person, and then they split the prize pot: winner, worst team, and top scorer, and then they create the sweepstake from there. Maybe you perhaps have to log in. I don't think I have to log in.
What I was most impressed by was the kind of the creative automated emails that would go out to everybody after kind of each round of games, just to try and get everybody engaged, because there might be some people in the office aren't really that engaged with the World Cup, but if they get an email through and say, right, you've got 5 points, you've got your top scorer, they've scored 2 goals, this, that, the other, and it was really quite creative the way that it kept all of the users engaged with the updates and the rounds, and they're all personalized.
Yeah, well, they are, yeah. So this is the super admin view, which is effectively my view, and here I have to manually input the match results, which is a bit of a pain, to be honest. But it keeps track of the golden boot race. So this is up to kind of towards the end of I think there was one day left prior to, so one match left prior to the knockout phase. It's going to be updated today, actually, to reflect some of the knockout stage stuff. So if we look at it if we look at the Strategy Plus organization, and we look at it from, so let's take you, for example, as a user, Dan. So you can actually go in and view, here's what our prize pots are. So its top score is only £8. It's a bit of a poor sweepstake. This is, to be honest, quite low value, I thought. Just goes to show how tight people are in our office can be. But yeah, entry cost £10, and it shows that the payment's been received. Because there are only a few of us at Strategy Plus, there's 48 teams in the World Cup. Each one of us drew 6 teams. And we had, I think, 3 or 5 top scorers from the 144 most likely top scorers from the competition drawn at random. So these are all your top scorer picks, and these are the teams that you're following. Okay, this is you. So you've got Colombia still in it, Croatia out, Australia out, Mexico out, Panama out, New Zealand. So all hopes on Colombia play. Argentina.
It doesn't look good.
Good for you.
I think it does go to show that the fact that it took a bit of planning, and you got the most of it done in about a day. If in the good old days, if I was going to get our developers to create something like this from scratch, it's going to take them at least a week.
Absolutely, yeah. And what this does is it sends out an email. I would generate the emails, but so just when I say generate the emails, I would press a button saying generate emails. So I can generate a draw announcement, or I can generate a new email. And the email would be like, hi, Strategy Plus sweepstakers. And then it's got information. So it feeds a prompt into the AI with all of the people and who their selections are. And it takes the last results that have been input into the tool, and it sort of says things like this. So Steve had a mixed bag. His Turkey side suffered a 0-1 loss to Paraguay, making it a tough start for them. However, his teams, Argentina, Czech Republic, Qatar, Canada, and Ghana, didn't feature in any matches during this window, so we'll be waiting to see their next moves. So it's something personalized to your organization. So it relates the person that's drawn the teams and top scorers to what they're how those teams have performed. And we send this email to everybody in the office. They receive this kind of organizationally personalized email, right? So the idea of this tool really really is just to kind of delight customers. It's just a bit of a value add that we thought was a bit of fun that we could run for our customers during this World Cup. And we'll probably run it during other competitions as well. But yeah, it's just a nice little tool that we can build in a day, not built with data collection in mind, really, just built with delighting our existing customers. But obviously, it kind of showcases our expertise and our ability to run something of this kind.
It's not the typical kind of tool that you would expect with like B2B businesses, but definitely B2C, whether it's a gym, whether it's protein food manufacturers, or whatever it may be. You always used to get on the packets little games that people can enter and that kind of thing. So that would be a great way to try and just engage their customers, maybe trying to create a sense of community so they could get all their gym members, for example, having a go at this game. It's something to talk about. So it's just really sort of a cost-effective way of now sort of engaging and, as you say, delighting your customers. So that's one angle you can take with the tools. But I think the next example that you're going to give us is more kind of lead gen, very, very specific lead gen for people with high intent searches.
Well, let me just before we do that, let me just quickly show what those emails look like, because I think it's pretty uninspiring back end view that we just saw there. But like, when the emails are coming out, here's an example email that I received basically from the sweepstake. So, it's got a nice headline. All of this is AI generated, right? So we're not doing the hard yards of creating this email. So strategy plus sweepstake, Germany's power play, Iran's peace message, and the golden boot gets tighter. And it also, I've programmed it to use a BBC Sport RSS feed. So it kind of pulls in a little bit of news as well, that people can link to from here. Mm-hmm. So for people who aren't really closely following the World Cup, for example, this is just a way of them getting a little bit of information that they can possibly use at a water cooler. But also giving like, here's our staff and like what our showings are, and then we've got the worst team race. So it's quite a nice engaging email with like packed with genuine information and key links to the news from the BBC RSS feed. So it's worth showing that, I think, just to see what the value add is. It's not just a case of people have to remember who they've drawn in the draw and stuff like that. They will get this email. We're sending these emails out weekly at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, really. I'm really quite chuffed with it. And apart from the fact I've just got Colombia left, but there's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. There's clearly something wrong with the system, Steve.
Yeah, but I've got Argentina, so your team and my team will likely be playing each other at some point.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But yeah, with a tool in mind in terms of more kind of lead gen from those people that really are looking now to maybe press the button in terms of investing in something. There's you're in the middle of creating a tool for copper and ash commercial interior designers, because they always they are really determined to try and get an idea of budget, or to give an idea of budget to clients. Sometimes clients are not necessarily coming forward with ideas for budget because sometimes I think they feel, well, if we give them a big budget, that will increase the cost of design kind of thing, which isn't the case. It's just the designers need to know what the remits they need to work within in terms of creating a design that is affordable. So they're using the tool to help with actual customers that have already kind of engaged with them, but also a way to generate kind of leads that people go into on the website. And typically, if you're about to go into creating a restaurant, it would be nice to have a better idea of how much that might cost. So that's what you've got there. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah. So this has been created in Lovable, which is an AI app and website creation tool that enables us, same as the last project actually, but we are using a variety of tools to do these sorts of things. But these two that I'm showing you today are both have been created in Lovable. So copper and ash, as you mentioned, interior design business. They want to help people. They want to be able to qualify leads. They want to provide a value add at the start of the sales process. So they want people who are coming in who really do have some money to spend, who are genuine prospects. They have some money to spend on, on their interior design, and are happy to work with someone of their caliber. And Yeah, one of the key sectors for Copper and Ash is hospitality. So they do a lot of work for restaurants and quick service from quick service restaurants all the way through to very sort of high-end eateries. So we haven't quite got the range pricing right on this tool just at the moment, but that's because we're working with Kaylee at Copper and Ash at the moment to kind of work out what the key cost drivers are in terms of interior fit outs more than anything else. So I'm just going to go through this form and show you what it requires and how and what sort of what thing it outputs, what sort of output it has. So it starts by asking, so does lead capture at the beginning, right? Now there's an argument that this actually is going to be a little bit too heavy in terms of information. You obviously have to get the balance right. Basically, you need to get the balance right in terms of asking for getting enough usable information as possible, as much usable information as possible without putting people off. So we start by asking for a name and an email address and a phone number, which is quite a lot. Then a company or operator name. So I'm going to put in Acme, and then asking for a project name. I think this is probably a bit too much at this stage, but that's just, you know, it's really just a prototyping phase. So I've asked Hayley to sort of define which of these fields are the most important. We're probably going to take 2 of these screens out. Once we've got through the lead capture part of it, sorry, the one thing I did want to mention, you can always put lead capture at the end. So people are kind of into that sort of sunk cost where they've already put a load of work into filling out the form, and like they're more incentivized to put their name and an email address in. But we feel that people who are genuinely interested would be happy to provide their name and email address at the beginning. So it's kind of just a choice of whether you want the most qualified leads or the most leads. Yeah,
and you just word it saying, you know, where do you want the email? Where do you want the quote email to, for example? So it makes sense to give up your email address. So
yeah, exactly that. So I'm going to go through and fill in this form. There's about 11 questions in the form to begin with. Now, it's quite a complex process, this, because there are lots and lots of different variables that can affect the price. So I'm going to go with a refurb. And then it's asking me for an opening date. So I'm going to go for an ambitious opening date of the 30th of October. And then it's asking me for the space. So what the AI does really well, and this is something that Kaylee and I are working on, is that it can probably, depending on the type of restaurant, we can probably extrapolate the number of seats from the number of square meters. So we probably don't need to ask both of these questions. But I'm going to start by saying 2,000 square meters and 100 and 150 covers in there, which is quite large. What was the space used as previously? This is quite important because, you know, it might need to be stripped down and stuff. Again, this will be refined over time, but we're going to call it, say it was a stripped back space, which is probably ideal. Does it have a bar? Yeah, it's got a 3-meter bar, and we're going to include a back bar. Kitchen size is derived automatically from your covers. So basically the fact that we put in 100 odd covers will kind of dictate how big the kitchen needs to be. So it's going to need a light refurbishment of the kitchen in this particular case. And the level of finish we're using is kind of neighborhood standard mid for this particular example. Furniture package, we're going to go for essentials. Soft furnishings and artwork, we're going to go light. Signage, we're going to go feature internal. All right,
and we did do a bit of research about, you know, are there any other kind of calculators out there? And you do get the odd few dotted around the world that do this kind of thing, but they're really not as thorough as this. They look a little bit clunky and their output isn't as good. So again, there's definitely a requirement for this, but I think AI definitely allows you to go that extra length, I think.
Well, interestingly, one of the things that if you type in, I can't remember exactly what search term I used, but if you're typing in kind of interior design, budget calculator, or some such term search string like that, it was surfacing a page, quite a clever web page, a couple of years out of date blog post, I think, from an interior design firm down south in the UK. And the page basically said, if you're looking for an interior design quote calculator, you won't find one, because it's almost impossible to give a quote based on like the kind of limited information you'd be able to provide online. So that's quite good, because they've done that as an SEO play, obviously, but they probably did it before the AI revolution. And the stuff that they're saying, which is it's impossible to provide a quote, I don't think it is impossible. I'm pretty sure we've proved concept that it's not impossible to provide range pricing if you get the questionnaire right. So the very fact that someone, the person that's supposedly answering that question as best as anyone can in Google's eyes, is saying there isn't one, just goes to show there's an opportunity there. So we don't put a target budget in mind of £100,000. I've learned so much about interior design in the last few weeks. It's unbelievable. I knew nothing about interior
design. It
probably
put you off the idea of opening up a restaurant.
No way in a million years I would open a restaurant. At the moment. Looking to appoint a partner in the next 1 to 3 months. Like I say, I'm just going to go back on these two questions. It's a standard fit out right here. Looking to appoint a partner within the 1 to 3. These are lead gen questions, obviously. These are kind of giving information to Kaylee and Matthew at Copper and Ash to help them kind of understand how good a prospect this is. And then one last thing. Again, this is about kind of giving them some intelligence, some sales intelligence, to be able to approach the people that have filled in the lead form and say, look, I understand that budget certainty or design quality or landlord approval is your big concern at this point. Here's how we as Copper and Ash would help handhold you through the process. So it just gives you that little bit of extra sales intelligence. And then what we do is we click the calculating button and it comes out with this budget, right? So this is out. We know this is wrong at the moment. This is using some kind of placeholder numbers, but it's coming out. It's basically using a cost per square meter. It's coming out with risk level and the budget fit. It's the risk level's high because it's so much over budget based on the answers that I've given and the budget that I've put in there. It's got key cost drivers, and then it's coming out with an AI. It's putting all that information into AI, and it's generating a response, a narrative response. So, and
this is the thing, obviously, Kaylee's put a lot of effort into, this was just something that they were internally always looking at anyway, so that they could actually give some more accurate quotes and budget ideas to clients. The clients would always say, oh, how much do you think this is going to cost? And it's quite hard to try and just figure that out off the cuff. So that that's why they've generated this, to be able to then provide the information to the customer. So this will be a much quicker way of doing it. But a lot of this information is based on the content that Kaylee provided you. Is that right?
Yeah. So Kaylee provided me with a spreadsheet that she currently uses. Now that spreadsheet is very much for internal use, and it requires someone with a kind of with just a load of experience in doing what Kaylee does. So in order for her to say, right, okay, well, the electrical installation just isn't going to cost that much. I mean, this is pulling out. Kaylee and I went through something the other day. This project is estimated at over £1 million at £588 per square meter, and it's saying, like, these are the significant infrastructure requirements to fit out a shell unit are going to be driving this cost. Now, Kaylee said to me, in some cases, this information has been extrapolated from. Obviously, it's been extrapolated from the answers that we gave, and it's just not true that in this case that most places would necessarily require significant infrastructure. So the good thing was we said, okay, so what would it require then, and how do you know that? So when a client calls you, when a client first starts speaking to you, what are the alarm bells that go off? What are the things that they're concerned about? So I've gone back to Kaylee with unfortunately for her, it's like a kind of 14-page questionnaire. 14-page because it requires a little bit of narrative to go in there. But it's really pointed questions that I designed with the help of AI as well, because we're using AI to facilitate this whole process. But really kind of trying to get under the skin of how an expert such as Kaylee would go about trying to quote for a space like this. And when she's filled that in, we'll hand that over to the AI to pull out better quotes. And we'll definitely I'm 100% confident that we're going to get a brilliant tool that's going to get very, very close to the right price in there. But it's not just about price. I mean, it's stripping things back quite a lot if it's just about price. This needs to be improved to a greater extent, because it needs to talk about your concerns can be allayed. Here are some solutions to kind of mitigate some of your concerns. It needs to kind of communicate, be honest, but also inspire and reassure potential
Yeah.
prospects. Yeah.
If you feel that this is out of your budget, we have solutions to be able to reduce the cost without, causing any issues in terms of design. So, do get in touch, and we've got the answers effectively. So I think it's a fantastic way to sort of try and set themselves apart, because there's lots of other agencies out there with good-looking work. They've got experience in projects, and it's quite hard for customers to really differentiate about who they should go to, who's more capable, and who's going to be the best people to work with. So I think you've definitely got to try and find a way to differentiate yourself from everybody else out there. Now, I'm just conscious of time now, so those were both creating Lovable. Our developers work alongside things like Claude Code, so they can create websites from scratch. They can create like web portals, so they can go back and forth with Claude Code to try and sort of save time, come up with solutions. So would you say Lovable is kind of like a purpose-built platform for non-coders to be able to develop something from scratch, start to finish, and Claude Code is just something like a tool for a developer to help them and support them? Does that make sense? Would you say those are the two differentiators?
Yeah, that's certainly one way of differentiating them. And the developers are much more comfortable using Claude to iterate on their existing code base, aren't they? And we're kind of using Lovable to quickly prototype. One of the great, beautiful things about Lovable is you sync everything to GitHub, and you don't need to run it in Lovable. Like, the code is yours, which is, you own the intellectual property to the code that it creates for you because you're a paid subscriber. So everything gets synced to GitHub. And if you want to go and build it in React, or you want to convert it to a different to something completely different, then the developers can do that. So it's a prototyping tool. I don't think there's anything better out there at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And other examples, like different industries, I'm thinking, so we've got like pricing calculators we spoke about, kind of like games, that kind of thing, of a way to engage your customers. ROI calculators. So if people are thinking about investing in something, like, I don't know, let's just say it's Google Ads. So we could do it easy. I mean, we should do a lot of this on our own site. But, I'm going to invest X, conversion rate is Y, and the average order value is, Z. Then, you can quickly understand what your return on investment is with these different variables. So things like that, if people are looking to invest in a particular business. If you're a graphic designer, I thought that why don't you have a brand brief creator? So designers are great at designing, but maybe the clients don't necessarily always come to them with the best briefs. So maybe they can have a questionnaire on the website, just asking about their business, their target audience, their differentiators, how they want to be perceived, and then it'll output a perfect brief for a graphic designer to then implement it, or you put it into ChatGPT and create your own brand identity. But again, that's kind of like a graphic designer alternative, I think, maybe a little tool for people to try and attract people. You can have tools on websites to find the best solution. So someone's going to, I don't know, maybe a plumber's website, and they go, right, what's your problem? Describe what your problem is, this, that, either. These are your needs. We have this product, or we have this service that will be best suited to you, that kind of thing. So if people often, phone up companies and go, well, I've got this problem. I don't think I'm happy with my branding, or I don't think I'm happy with my traffic going through to my website, but they don't really know what they want. They could figure that all out on the website, I think, and again, have that as a lead generator. I mean, it's endless, the amount of tools that people could be creating and really trying to sort of, set themselves apart from the competitors now. Are there any risks to this? If somebody just, Joe Blogs Builder goes, all right, I'm going to go on Lovable. I'm going to try and start spending all my hours trying to figure this out, and then stick it on their website. Are they going to fall short when it comes to security, GDPR, or anything like this?
In those terms, I thought when you said risks, I thought, everyone's going to be out of a job. Yeah, that's one of the big risks, isn't it? But we're not, because we're designing these tools. We'll be safe for a little while yet. Things like GDPR and data protection, like, for example, Lovable's got built-in security security scanning, and it will tell you when there's any security risks with the database, and it'd be right for you to make sure that you get all that right before you launch anything. Quite a lot of times I've built some solutions in this where it said, like, some of your information could be publicly available, and you have to go and sort of patch that before you launch it. You can do that using the AI. Obviously, if you host it through Lovable, there's some sort of shared responsibility there. You can host any of this stuff yourself, by the way. You can put it in GitHub, you can take it out of GitHub, you can host it wherever you wish to. So, there's lots of different hosting setups available for these sorts of tools. But of course, just like anything else, someone needs to take responsibility for making sure that any personal data is encrypted, and that you've got people sign, you've got people agreeing to terms and conditions wherever possible. I don't see it as being any more risky than, I'm absolutely positive.
I suppose if somebody was going to do it themselves, and let's just say for example, I know another agency that they're really good at this, the particular person was creating some fantastic things, and she handed it over to the developers to then have a once over, and the guy was like, yeah, this is like fundamentally insecure. If you went live with this, everything would be, they could get in, they could find data or whatever. So she had to get a developer to double check this. Now, you might be able to get Claude Code or Lovable to run their eyes over and do it. But let's just say everything's fine when you go live. But with things like WordPress, when you've got a web developer in supporting you, there are updates in terms of browsers, there are updates in terms of like security issues and all the rest of it. So what's secure now might not be secure in 6 months' time or 2 years' time. So it's also, you've got to be careful that, right, how are we supporting this? How are we making sure it's still functioning on all different devices, different browsers and that kind of thing? So I think it's not a straightforward, like anybody can come off the streets, go into Lovable and build what you like and host it wherever you like, and not be, responsible about how you're going about this.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. None of these tools that we've launched here internally would ever be launched without a developer having a very close look at them. So yeah, I agree with that entirely. But it's not just the kind of, it's not just the case that we should be fearful of doing stuff on our own autonomously. I really encourage people to go out there and try these things out for themselves, and I don't think we should be putting people off by saying, well, you still need someone to, you still need a developer. I just think it's best practice that you do need a developer before you go live with anything. I think that's that you'd be sort of foolish to do it. It's just a DIY project, ultimately, that could lead to disaster unless you have someone give it a once over. But I still think that people can go out and freely explore these tools for themselves. And I also think that, working alongside, I'm working alongside, Hayley, for example, now at Copper and Ash, and I think she's getting an insight into how these tools work. I think, at some point, some of the people that I'm working alongside with our clients, for example, will just get better, and they're going to be upskilling themselves, learning from people who've been through this process before as well. So, the more people play with it, the more people experiment, the more expert advice they get, the more experts they work alongside, then the better they'll get it. So I absolutely recommend a little bit of self-experimentation, but if you can kind of learn from a mentor, that's equally that's going to be much more valuable in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to save a lot of time, as you say, prototyping. If someone can just kind of put some ideas together and play around with it and be able to hand that over to the developer, it should be able to save a lot of time and cost to them, I think. And the more sort of exploration that they do themselves, I think it would, can't do any harm. So, Steve, I really appreciate all the sort of the work that you've done on those particular tools and giving us some insights on how to go about that. So hopefully everybody can crack on, give it a go themselves. And if they do have any questions, they can always get in touch. But for now, and until our next episode, it is bye-bye and au revoir.
Thank you. Bye.